Hey guys, it's Chrispy Driver, and last week we did a review video on the Ferrari 360, and while doing so, we had a bit of a chat with Jason, Rick, and Braden about the Ferrari and a few other things that didn't quite make it into the video. So I wanted to release this Chrispy Chats video just so you guys get the inside scoop of what all we talked about. If you like this video, please leave me a like. If you subscribe, just know that I appreciate it. But above all else, have a wonderful day.
Well, I was going to say too, like, can you have a conversation with Ferrari in the last couple of years? At least in my mind, was Joel Kinnaman's Ferrari when he modified, and had that spat with
the neon cat or whatever.
Yeah,
that is hilarious.
The company was like, "You can't do that to our car," and he's like, "I bought the car. It's my car." And they're like, "Yeah, is it though?"
Ferrari is really litigious over those things, and I find that pretty funny. As a company, you'd think they'd be like, well, at least the people have our cars, they own our cars. So that means they're enthusiastic about it.
Press,
On the other hand, they're like, I don't want my brand to be shown that way. So they kind of steer clear of it, and then they want to shut everybody down on it.
They just don't care. Right. It's their way. There's just no.
It's the Italian.
They just don't care.
Oh, I saw that online. I was like, that is really offensive and awesome at the same time. I can't look away.
Right.
The old man is still alive and well.
Yeah, no kidding. Philosophy.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about maintenance on that back end of things. So as far as ownership on one of these things, obviously I've never owned one, Braden's never owned one, but what kind of maintenance costs do you look at as far as just daily maintenance?
It depends on how much you like to dig into them. It really does. Just the little amount that we know each other, you could own one. The only thing that you'd have to pay decent money for is the belt service.
Right.
Now, up until the 360, this is the last car that carried a timing belt, which means every 3 to 5 years, honestly 5 years is sufficient.
Yeah.
You have to open up the front of the engine and switch out the timing belt. Now, this car, you don't have to remove the engine on the 355 and the 348. You had to pull the engine to do that. Yeah, it's not that big of a task. I do them myself, but they're not bad. Other than that, there is nothing on that car that a normal guy with a little bit of mechanical desire, and I like working on them, honestly, but there's nothing that you couldn't do. There's a stigma about them that's unwarranted, and I think Ferrari does it on purpose.
Yeah.
Kind of gets some of the people to probably think twice about buying it if they think, well, I'm going to have to invest another $20,000, $30,000 each year on maintenance costs.
Yeah. What I've found is
Prestige a little bit.
what I've found, the mechanics on these cars are brilliant, and a lot of cars get a bad rep. Rick and I have restored well over 100 DeLoreans, and they are so simple once you know how to work on them. We got to the point where we didn't even need to talk. We could restore a car, do it in a week. And it was, you do this, I'll do this, and it's done. And once you understand the car and the philosophies of it, it's incredibly simple. And these are the same way. I mean, I'm not scared of these cars at all.
Right.
I've never worked on a 430. I'm sure if I worked on one, it wouldn't take long to be comfortable with them. But this and the 348 and the 308 and the I don't mind. I don't mind working on them. I really don't.
The design infrastructure remains roughly the same, I'm sure.
The philosophies are the same, and a lot of people don't understand what that means. This car has a 3.6 liter V8, and the engine is 2 engines with 1 crankshaft. So everything that's on the left, there's another one on the right. So there's a throttle body, there's a gas tank for each side, there's 2 fuel pumps, there's 2 of everything, and that makes the expense a little bit more because you're 50% more likely to have something fail.
Right.
But the parts aren't terribly expensive, to be honest. And diagnosing that problem takes half as long because you're only diagnosing 4 cylinders. It'll tell you if the issue is in the left or right side, always.
Let me ask a balancing question here. When you say parts are relatively inexpensive,
Okay.
give me some numbers.
Fuel pump, there's certain parts. There's probably 6 pages of Fiat interchangeable parts. And if you buy Fiat,
That's a good point.
dirt cheap.
Yep.
And they're the same parts.
Yep.
I had to put a fuel pump in that one when I bought it. The fuel pump was $450, and I did it in the parking lot of a Holiday Inn.
Jesus.
And that's reasonable.
But what would they charge you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
yeah.
$1,500. That's my point. You know, if
Yeah.
you have any mechanical, I had never changed the fuel pump on a Ferrari 360 before.
Wow.
It was not.
Why?
It's easy. You know, I really encourage car guys, try it.
Sure.
It's worth it.
That leads me into another question. I have heard, never experienced personally, obviously, I'm too poor for that. I have heard of the modularity, quick disconnect, stuff like that of cars of the supercar status.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
I was
they're
going to ask about how that relates to serviceability.
incredibly modular. And that goes back to what we talked about earlier today. They're built as race cars. That's Ferrari's real shtick, is they take this race technology and they make it into a luxury car.
Mm-hmm.
So body panels unbolt. It's so cool. Yeah.
That's why.
I've done 5 or 6 now, 348 engines. There's somebody at this table that I'm pressing hard to buy a 348 that needs an engine change, and I'm not gonna point any fingers.
It's
but
me.
It's a black 91 Targa 348, and it needs a belt change, so the engine needs to come out. I can have the engine out in 2 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's just
Drops out.
Yeah, the whole rear subframe pops right out.
Yep.
And it's very simple. Again, the first time you do it, you're scared to death, terrified. It's a lot harder. After the first one, it's super easy.
It's still metal and it's still bolts. And
Yeah,
it's still nuts.
and it's just a brake line, a clutch line, and it's made to do it though. That's the cool thing.
It's made to work on at the track
Yeah,
where you
that's
don't have the time.
That's exactly right. Suspension parts come out, go back in, super easy, and adjust easy.
Which is something you don't even find in modern commercial cars.
Yeah.
Well, and that was the thing when Rick and I started messing with DeLoreans. We both couldn't believe how modular they made that car. You know, you could diagnose anything electrical from the electrical compartment. You could jump from there. They have a power post in the electrical compartment, and you could go and tap the fuse blocks and test the radio and the windows.
Oh, yeah.
Actually narrow it down.
Yeah, and again, people really crapped on that car a lot. And mechanically, I'd say it's a brilliantly designed, made for somebody to be able to work on it car. I mean, but the first one that we did, the first 2 that we did, were sacrificial cars. You know, we learned on them, and I pity the poor person that has those cars now because we learned on them.
Which is probably why he's going to win, and we will have this car.
We'll be doing a show on an engine out on a 348 here real soon.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you remember that time?
I'm into it.
In your guys' experience, as we were just talking about, the advent of the internet and interconnectedness, the ability to figure these problems out together, how much of the Ferraris are unreliable thing was just a Lamborghini quote, and how much of it was just star power on the part of Ferrari themselves, trying to talk their game up to make people, like we talked about earlier, kind of scared and like, I have to let them do this.
100% from my experience. Now, I haven't worked on new ones. I haven't worked on anything newer than this F12 back here. But I was telling him the other day, I would never touch a car with a salvage title unless it was a Ferrari or even a Lamborghini, because they're so modular.
That's fair.
I mean, what can you? I mean, if something isn't working, you put a new ECU in it. You replace the corner of the car, and they're out there, and they're not expensive, and there's a lot of salvage ones out there. I wouldn't hesitate buying a salvage title car and fixing it. I wouldn't hesitate.
And that's like something you just never hear someone say.
It
I
really
know.
is, yeah.
Really
I'm
never
actually
hear
kind of
someone
surprised.
But it's the construction of the car,
Yeah.
the way that it's built.
Right. They're solid, and I'm sure they maintain their value even with a title.
That's actually going to be my next question. How do everybody complains about, don't buy a salvage Ferrari because resale is going to be trash or whatever. Like,
I think they're right, but it's unjustified. I would buy a salvage car. I would. I don't own one, but I, in knowing what I know, there's nothing I can't fix. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, if you want a set of wheels, they've been out long enough, you could find an NOS set of wheels for $1,200.
That's about what you'd pay for a nice set of wheels.
Yeah.
For any car, yeah.
But I mean, look it up. Look on Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, look Facebook Marketplace. It's shocking. But people part out cars. They, that once they wreck, a lot of people, they're worth more in pieces than they are rebuilt. So most people part them out. Parts are everywhere.
That's ridiculous.
Everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, the first 348 that I bought was a yellow Spider from Southern California, and it hadn't run in 10 years. And the body was in good shape, but it was mechanically dead of a car. And I had that thing running perfectly in probably 2 months over winter, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed working on it, learning about it. It was a satisfying car to work on.
Yeah, and not specifically from your quote directly, but usually when I hear things like this car is a piece of junk, it's unreliable, whether it's Ferrari, DeLorean, or etc. Usually, once you start digging in and look at it, you find they haven't changed the oil. They don't. They don't do spark plugs. They don't ECUs or it's been treated like trash, and you expect this thing that was built to be pristine to run. In an environment where it's never touched, and following the most basic of maintenance rituals, right? So, and all the ones we'd seen, that was the issue.
That was the case.
This thing doesn't run. It hasn't ran in 10 years, or it's stuck. How many DeLoreans did we find? It hasn't ran in 10, 15 years, and it ended up being like a $3 part or a 5-minute fix.
Just a fuse.
Right in front of that person. After completing the sale, we go out there,
drive it onto the trailer.
And they're like, Brohams, what just happened?
It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. People just...
And it wasn't fleecing them. It's just that they just did not...
It was broken when you bought it.
You
just happened to know how to fix it.
That's exactly right.
Because you would think if you invest in something like this, or you proclaim to be a fan of it, you're going to do that research. You're going to dig through manuals. You're going to watch videos. You're going to watch people talk about it. Just... That whole idea of owning something as complex, complicated, and as awesome as something like this without knowing that stuff seems a little weird to me.
A lack of due diligence.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I believe that anybody at this table could buy one of those and they'd never have a problem with it. Ever. Drive to work every day. Never have a problem with it.
Service intervals.
That's exactly right.
It's that simple.
It's maintenance. I have a grease board in there. And I have all my cars listed on the grease board and what's annual, what's 5 years, when this is due. Yeah. I keep records and again, you keep up with the maintenance, whether it needs it or not, it's maintenance. If you do that, it'll run forever.
Put the money in before you need to.
That's right. That's exactly right.
You told them about the whole Florida driving. You didn't bring that up at all?
Did I tell you that when I bought, that's the blue one that we did. That's it.
I know.
We bought that in Florida. Did a little bit of work to it. Drove it home from Miami.
Oh, wow. No, let's back up. You, having never driven one of these, you go, here's the keys. We've got 1,000 miles to go. Go.
Rick drives like a grandmother, too. It was hilarious.
On 65 boards going 75, 80 miles an hour. And I would hear things like, dude, you're only doing 80. Go.
Only doing 80. Only 80.
Or, after I got comfortable with it, like, holy crap, I'm doing 80. 3 seconds ago, I was doing 40. What's going on? Because that like when you get a normal vehicle to that speed, you have indicators. You're shaking. The engine's loud. The wind rushing. I had no idea. I was going as fast as that. It crept up on you.
It's crazy.
Nice.
I'd do it again. I've done that.
It's crazy to think that it was reliable enough that you could fix it and drive it from Florida. You know what I mean? All the way up here, because gosh, there's not a lot of cars I would trust to do that.
Well, the fuel pump on this yellow one, I ordered it. I knew the fuel pump was bad. I smelled it. It was obviously the fuel pump was bad. I opened up the compartment. There was gas everywhere. So I got a hotel reservation that was 5 miles away. And while I was driving there, I called the parts company. They had it delivered next day a.m. 9 o'clock the next day it shows up. I was on the road at 10.
Jesus.
Wow. It's amazing though.
And I'm not the greatest mechanic in the world. I just enjoy it, you know? There's nothing magical about it.
Let's clarify that. Hobby mechanic.
Hobby mechanic. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's what I am.
But that was kind of my takeaway on that, with having never driven one like that in that model and capacity within a matter of 15, 20 minutes. I mean, I had it down. There was nothing like scary or weird about that wasn't easily done. So it's not like you're literally in the cockpit of a Raptor and you've got 85 buttons everywhere. You know. So it is attainable for people to go into it and drive it without much preparatory guidance on that.
Nice. And speaking of performance, as far as driving one, what's been the driving experience for you? I mean,
it's different, but it's a rush every time you do it. When you take your old Corvette out and you get on the interstate, you get this little bit of a rush. It's every time you turn the key on that. The sound, the feeling, the acceleration is unbeatable. The low end on these cars is just incredible. It's an exciting experience, and my wife makes fun of me because I refuse to drive them to work every day. And I try to make it a special thing.
Right.
I get up in the morning and I go have coffee in one of my fun cars, and I go to a car show and I do this and that, and you can drive them every day. To me, it's such a excitement.
That would almost feel less special if you did it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
And would you say about the same experience having driven it from Florida?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I was trying to think. We stopped at a couple of fast food establishments, like a standard fare, like an Arby's or whatever. And,
right.
You go, you park the silly thing, and you go in and you'd be eating lunch, and you would hear people come in and talking about it.
What's going on over there, man? Who's that guy?
Yeah, which wasn't weird for me as DeLoreans go too, because you have that same experience.
Yeah,
you can't go to the gas station. It'll take 40 minutes. And not only do you get those roadside questions, you also get the, I heard on the internet these things, and it's the same thing with these cars. Like they're almost exactly the same. Like they've all got those predisposed notions or that one fact that they've got, and they just can't wait to tell you that they know about the vehicle. And it's fun because it's something you would never have a reason to interact with that person, and now you've got that. And I guarantee you, there's kids that live along here that know your car, that know.
Oh yeah.
They see you driving, or somebody's like, man, one of these days.
Keeping the dream alive, man.
But that's part of it, and then especially as car guys, we all have our dream cars, and I feel like that's what we strive for. That's why we do what we do on a daily basis, whether it's just going to grind the 9 to 5 every day, or owning your own business and working it as hard as you can. But it's all in that hope and dream that we'll actually reach our point where we can get that car that we saw on a poster at Scholastic Book Fair, or that we saw, the rich one guy in the town that has something nice, and we all think, okay, one day I'm gonna own that, and we work towards it. So I think it's inspirational to a degree when we find these type of cars, and this one being extremely special on that end.
This is why it's important to rev for the kids, man.
Get the kids involved.
You talked about getting adjusted to driving one of these when you're on your way up.
Yeah.
Explain that, if you don't mind.
So I'm going to out myself a little bit here. My daily driver at that point was a Prius.
Oh, wow.
I was going to say Corolla.
I'm surprised he hasn't brought it up. Yeah.
I was trying to protect you, man.
I know. And so moving from that to this was a little overwhelming at first.
Going from a moped to a Hayabusa, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There had been previous vehicles that have come through here that we would run that were powerful in that capacity. But it was kind of just it was a different mixture. It was like the difference between drinking a milkshake that was chunky and then one that had been highly refined, and you were able to just throw it back.
The perfect one.
Yeah, It was very, very
milkshake
different. Like I didn't have to worry about a lot of things with this vehicle. Like as far as like getting up to speed or being able to rotate quickly or turn the steering wheel and make it do what I wanted it to do. That might have been, especially at older vehicles. You got that steering wheel. You got to turn 15 times to go to the right. And so some of that was freed up for my ability to kind of play with the dashboard, see the paddles, find that sweet spot in the gearing. But it was super easy. I can't, like I said, I would tell every single person that if you really want to drive these cars, don't let that be the thing that holds you back. Right? It's very easy to get used to and accustomed.
Yeah, I think that would be a big thing for a lot of people, seeing the paddle shifters with no clutch pedal, and you're thinking, whoa, how does this work? How do we get back to neutral? Like, what do I do here? So knowing that it's pretty easy to get past that a little bit with a little bit of driving, and I imagine kind of get past that, and then after that, it's probably fun because you know that you can just paddle right through the gears and be safe and understand that you can get through corners without having to worry about rolling over or something.
There was no peeling out, worry about it, catching things. Like I said, it was almost like stress-free. Like it didn't feel like I was driving a supercar, where you kind of expected that jet engine, kind of feeling. It was smooth. It was very, very smooth. So, I enjoyed it.
Wow. Yeah. Especially for a car that, 0 to 60s in under 3 seconds. I mean, that's that's not slow. Not slow at all.
No. But it's not the same expectations you have when you think about going to that speed. Like you don't have any of those external indicators that's happening. It's just you look down and you're like,
oh, wait a minute.
When did this happen?
Actually, we were talking about it on the way up here. Like, I would be horrified to drive one of these things for the sole fact that there's, between $150,000 to $500,000 worth of car underneath of me at that point in time.
But it's yours. The first thing that makes it different is it's yours.
Right.
And the second thing that makes a big difference is it's insured, and they made a bunch of them. I mean, if something happens, I can replace. I love that car. I love all the specs. I love everything about it. I can replace it in a day. I don't mind. You can jump in it and drive it right now. It doesn't bother me a bit. Same thing with that. There's a lot of them out there. They're insured for a reason. They're there to have fun.
That's fair.
And it's yours. I have a hard time myself. I'm weird. I don't like driving other people's cars.
Same.
And I like other people to drive my cars. Like I get enjoyment when other people drive my cars. Yeah. But I don't like driving other people's cars. So it's different when it's yours. I mean, I don't even think about jumping in these at all. It doesn't bother me a bit.
Yep. I mean, I've just got an old Z, so I mean, it's if I bend it, that's $20,000 down the drain at that point, which, to be fair, is a lot to some of us. It's just like why I say, like, getting into something like that is half of the fun of cars, in my opinion, is being able to take the mitigated risk. How much risk?
How far can you push it?
Yeah, how much risk can we accept within the confines of? We have to think about public roads are a thing. So how far do I push on a public road? 50%, kind of stuff like that. How far can I push on a track? Based on how much track time do I have? How do I trust my car on the track?
Sure. See, I won't track my cars. I just won't do it. I don't. To me, these are a work of art. That's just my and the risk is not worth it. I know that if I got on a track, I'd push its buttons, and I could replace it, but I don't want anything to happen to that car because I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm doing on the track.
But you got to think about yourself too. What could happen to you? You know?
Yeah, but the main difference being, like, I ran solo for years by myself. Like, I would go to car shows and things like that, but there was no community behind it. There was no exterior function other than the car show. A group of people meet together, talk about, have a garage day. What's going on in the news. Hey, this part got replaced by this part. That interaction and personability of having community behind it, I think, is paramount. To where it feels easier. Like, you're not, that risk is mitigated by having knowledge of people around you, and that because things that I don't, and and vice versa, and that makes that scared. I'm going to lose everything if this goes wrong. Mm-hmm. Lessened by having somebody like him who's done this over and over again and can point you in the right direction. It makes things a lot easier.
Sure.
That's how far some beer and pizza gets you, right?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I think I'm good now.
Okay. All right. Anything else you guys want to bring up on it? I think we've really covered just about everything I was thinking of.
Good.
We talked about maintenance costs. We talked about performance and handling. We talked about, I guess if there's anything that you would think that somebody should consider before buying, one of these cars, is there some things that maybe they should look for as far as like maintenance and so forth that maybe that would indicate whether it's been one that's been taken care of or not?
The only thing that's critical is the belt service.
Is that something you can see from the outside, or
no? You have to get receipts for who did the last belt service and when. Again, at 3 years you have to start thinking, and at 5 years, and you're looking just for the belts between, if you have a shop do it, between $2,000 and $3,000.
That's it?
Yeah, that's what you should be expecting. Now,
I expected him to say 8.
Yeah.
When I do a build, I have a friend of mine that's a professional exotic car mechanic, and I'm comfortable with him, and he's comfortable with me, and I want him over my shoulder because that valve penetrates the cylinder, and if you get that one tooth off,
it's all over.
Bad things happen. Yeah. So I have never trusted myself with the closure of putting those belts on. So I'll take the engine out, I'll strip it down, I'll mark everything, I'll get everything ready. And same thing with these, I'll get the bulkhead cover off, I'll get all the covers off,
sure.
I'll get this thing ready for him, and then he and I'll do it, and I give him $800 or $1,000, right. Just and it's done right, everything's good.
Right.
Parts-wise, what are you in on a timing service? Parts-wise, what are you in on a timing service?
The pulleys and belts on the 360 are something like $600.
I want it to be very clear. I own a 300Z. This is not a special car by any means. This is a Nissan, all right, with a V6 that they used in hundreds of thousands of production models. I pay $600 for a timing kit on that.
Yep. Like I said, man, let me tell you, I tried to restore a Porsche 928, one of the late ones.
Yeah.
The parts were between 3 and 5 times the cost of Ferrari parts for the equal thing.
Yeah, fuel pump.
Yeah,
whatever.
3 to 5 times the cost. I was so upset. I was so pissed.
Mind blowing, honestly.
Like I said, I mean, everybody at this table should have a Ferrari.
So I'm sure Ferrari agrees with you.
Yeah, right? Another qualifying question, if I may, is that $600 because you know where to look at this point? Like, is that them Fiat parts you were talking about?
No, there's a bunch of parts suppliers
on Rock Auto
everywhere. No. I have one specifically that I like, and the reason I like it, funny enough, goes back to my DeLorean days. Rick and I had a parts supplier that was up in Chicago that was one of the franchises, and the founder of that branch was a genuine friend of ours. And when we had issues, we'd call, even if we didn't want the advice. We'd spend 35 minutes on the phone, half of it talking about his kids and grandkids, and half of it going over what we may not have remembered on fixing this, and they do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm in love with this little company out of New Jersey, and they have every part for that car I need, and boy, they are incredibly helpful. And that's where I go. And they seem to be reasonable. Their prices aren't bad. Their prices aren't bad.
I mean, $600 for a timing kit for a Ferrari.
Yeah, the whole kit. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
That's insane.
It's true.
It's mind blowing is what it is.
Yeah.
Or perception breaking.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
And maybe what the kind of point of this has all been is that we all have this going into Ferraris. You always have this perception that nobody can work on it. It's super specialized. Anything's going to cost you tons of money. And then when you get into it, and you find out it's like, wow, this is reasonable. It's reasonable for what it is.
Yep.
So it's maybe.
I'm shaking up, man. It's nuts.
I'm telling you, it's not what everybody thinks. And the big thing for me is to find other people like us and all learn together. That was the best part about the DeLorean world with Rick and I, is we had a group of people and we'd learn on restoring these cars. And I've taken that same philosophy into these Ferraris, and it's worked great. Where to get parts, how to do different projects, who's good at what. You have an electrical guy, you have an air conditioning guy, you have a body guy, you have a paint guy, and man, all of a sudden you have everything you need to work on that car.
Somebody with small hands.
Somebody with small hands has the build of a Keebler elf. Not to mention any names.
We got that on camera.
Ouch.
This guy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, one of the things that I love about being a car guy is meeting other good people that are into cars and stuff. And then you get that call like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And then all of a sudden you're helping pull an engine, and you're learning something. I mean, you may learn something you didn't know about, or you may break something. You learn something. But yeah, you'll learn something in the end.
Hell yeah.
Sometimes the lesson's worse whenever you lose.
Yeah.
Sometimes. All right. This is great. It's been a great discussion.
Let's roll off of that real quick. The lesson is worth the dollars.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is. No doubt.
You can't put money on that.
Yep. That knowledge. Yep. That knowledge is priceless.
I finished doing a timing job on my Equinox, all right? Basic GM car. It was just that time. Got everything put back together, crank it, and it just spins and spins and spins and spins and doesn't do a goddamn thing. We have to censor that, and I apologize.
It's okay. We're going to be deep in the video by now, so.
That's fair. I ended up, I had just come off of making another big mistake on another car I was working on a few months prior. So I'm shaking at this point. I'm hating myself, basically, one step away from just complete and utter dejection.
Everybody has that at one time.
Yeah. So I took it off to my buddy who owns a shop and was like, hey, dude, I messed something up. I don't know what it is. I'm tired of even thinking about it or worrying about it. I just want somebody who obviously has the profession to do it. He comes back over the phone a few days later. Hey, man, you left a bunch of towels in your intake.
Oh, that's typical. How many times? How many times? That's funny.
It was a $1,000 mistake.
Right.
But
I'll
never do it again.
Never do that again.
You'll be counting how many reactions.
Exactly.
1, 2, 3. We're missing number 4. We got to find number 4.
Yeah, I can see how that would happen.
That's great.
Because I've also made a mistake where I dropped a washer down into an intake one time and had to rebuild an entire thing from it. So I said, I'm going to put some towels in there. So I'm not going to drop anything in there again, man.
Been there. Been there.
Now the towels are in there, man. I can't win.
Do you still have the piston?
Yes.
From the you can see all the marks at the top of it. It's pretty bad.
I like to keep that stuff around. It keeps me humble,
I don't.
No.
I don't need to be reminded.
Everybody who knows about this has been disappearing.
Just don't worry about it. It's not a mistake if it's in the scrapyard.
Well, that's it for this Chrispy Chats video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I really appreciate Jason, Rick, and Braden for speaking with us on all these different topics, and I really hope you enjoyed. If you liked this video, please hit the like button. It really helps me out. If you subscribe, just know that I truly appreciate it, and comment down below what future videos would you like to see. And until next time, this has been Chrispy Driver, and have yourself a wonderful day!